everyone! Welcome to Studio Classroom on the Air. This is the place to come when you want to have some fun. My name is Rebecca, and of course your English will improve today. Now let's say that you are in college. Now you must decide if you want to enroll in an online college or study on campus. Which would you prefer? Well, this is exactly what Ned and Miles are in the middle of discussing. Now, yesterday we started a lesson called Where Do Students Learn Best? And guess what? Today we get to continue this lesson. We will be talking about studying online and studying on campus. Which is better? Okay, friends, open up your magazines and let's begin. So, follow me.
Where do students learn best?
Do you ever run into technical problems in your online classes? If you can't open a file, that would affect your learning.
It's not a big problem. I can email the teacher or contact another student for help.
But answering questions through emails takes too much time. You may fall behind on your assignments.
You can fall behind too. What if you get sick or your class gets canceled because the weather is bad? Those aren't problems for online classes.
Yes, but there's typically a makeup class if a class is canceled.
Well, of course, we're in the middle of this conversation between Miles and Ned. We're talking about which is better, studying on campus or studying online. Now, Miles brings up a very interesting question. He asks Ned, do you ever run into technical problems in your online classes? Now, before we continue, we want to talk about those two words, to run into. This just means that something happens that you don't expect.
Exactly. You encounter a problem of some kind. So, for example, perhaps you ran into conflict with your coworker. It's a little difficult to deal with conflict. Hopefully you have the wisdom to resolve that conflict. Perhaps you're in a relationship and you run into relationship problems. There are some things that you need to work through so that the relationship can go more smoothly. Sometimes you run into technical problems. Thankfully, we haven't had too many technical problems whenever we go to schools to do activities for the students. But sometimes there are little technical problems, perhaps with the sound or something like that.
And that can be rather frustrating. Now, if you're taking an online class and you do have technical problems, that can be a little frustrating. For example, I was actually taking online Chinese classes for a while. And sometimes the internet would go down. And if the internet went down, that just means it stopped working. Then it would be very difficult. Actually, it would be impossible for me to have my Chinese class because we relied on the internet for my class.
Well, that is certainly a technical problem. And, of course, sometimes you might have technical problems in your online classes. Rebecca and Miles are case in point, right? If you can't open a file, that would affect your learning. Or I guess Ned might encounter some online technical problems.
Now, Miles brings up a very interesting point.
Yes?
If you can't open a file, that would affect your learning. That's a pretty big claim to make. Gabe, do you think that if you can't open a file, this would actually affect your learning?
I guess I might just choose to be creative with it. Like if I can't do something right now that I need to do, I might just, look up other things and start learning in other ways, or maybe read a book or do something else that's useful with my time. It might not affect my attitude too much, although I would have to figure out a way to get back to the class and figure out what's going on.
Well, in my opinion, if it does affect your learning, it's probably because you waited to the last minute to try to complete an assignment. Because usually you're given plenty of time to complete assignments. And if you can't open a file, you have plenty of time to ask your teacher.
Yeah, plenty of time to ask your teacher or plenty of time to open it again at another time.
Right.
Perhaps if the internet is working a little better. Maybe your Wi-Fi is having some issues, right, in the moment. So Rebecca makes a great point. Don't wait until the last minute to do your assignment, especially if you're dealing with technology.
Right. So if something is due tomorrow and you wait until midnight the night before it's due and then you can't open a file, that could be problematic. Well, we continue here. Ned says, it's not a big problem. I can email the teacher or contact another student for help. See, he's thinking ahead.
Right, exactly. Well, Miles says, but answering questions through emails take too much time. You may fall behind on your assignments. And of course, if you fall behind, that means you need to catch up. There is a lot of stuff that you need to do so that you're caught up with the other students in your class.
And of course, Ned says, well, you can fall behind too. What if you get sick or your class gets canceled because the weather is bad? Those aren't problems for online classes. That's actually very true.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the pros or advantages of taking classes online. A typhoon or a terrible storm is not going to affect your classes too much, unless it makes the power go out. Perhaps it will.
And then that could end up being a big problem. Now, Miles says, yes, but there's typically a makeup class if a class is canceled. Now, I don't know about you, Gabe, but in all the years that I've taken college classes, when a class is canceled, there's actually never been a makeup class for me.
Yeah, when I was in high school and we had a typhoon day, you're right, Rebecca. I don't think there were makeup classes either. There weren't makeup days, not that I remember. But perhaps this is the case for some schools. There will be makeup classes. But in Rebecca's and my case, and maybe a lot of other people, there just aren't makeup classes. But I guess in an online class, if that happens and you have to cancel, there might be a makeup class?
Perhaps. I don't know. I think that every college is probably a little different. But speaking of college and studying at college, Gabe, would you consider yourself more of a quick study or a slow study?
That's a great question. Let me think about that. But right now, let's go to
the Info Cloud.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Info Cloud. Ever since I started teaching on Info Cloud with Rex, I've always wondered about something. Rex, how did you learn English so well?
I still remember when I was in 5th grade, I decided to surround myself with friends from America. I spent all my time with them. I remember my English got really good after one summer vacation hanging out with them.
One summer? Wow, you are a quick study.
I wouldn't say that. You see, I started learning English in kindergarten, but I couldn't really speak fluent English until 5th grade. So I definitely would not consider myself a quick study.
Well, maybe we should explain what a quick study is. When we call someone a quick study, it implies that the person learns things very quickly. Another term for that is quick learner.
The expression is definitely a compliment, especially for kids. On the other hand, we could also use slow study to describe someone like myself who learns things slowly.
You're a slow study? I don't know about that. You speak better English than I do Chinese.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Studio Classroom. Well, here we are talking about which is better, studying on campus or studying online. And of course, Ned and Miles are in the middle of a very intense discussion about this topic. They can't seem to agree. I don't know why they just can't agree to disagree, because both things, studying online and studying on campus, have pros and cons. Well, friends, let's continue this conversation now.
Where do students learn best?
In an online class, I don't have to worry about missing classes for any reason. I can readjust my pace by reviewing previous lessons.
Don't you feel isolated sometimes? I would feel lonely if I had to learn on my own.
I'm confident in learning by myself. Besides, an online class gives me more free time to participate in other activities.
I still prefer having classmates to brainstorm and discuss ideas with. I believe that improves my overall learning.
I'm pretty self-disciplined, and I work better on my own. I would get too distracted working with others.
I guess everybody learns differently.
Well, Ned continues this conversation. He says, in an online class, I don't have to worry about missing classes for any reason. I can readjust my pace by reviewing previous lessons, which that is quite true, actually. Except I remember when I took an online class, there was, I think once a week, a set time that we all had to meet together, all the students.
Okay, so if you missed that time, you couldn't make it up, or?
Right, that you could not make up.
Okay, right. Of course, everybody else met without you. But were your teachers flexible, Rebecca? Like if you had to miss a class, but would they still give you another time to turn in your assignments?
Well, assignments weren't usually due when we had class.
Okay.
They might be due that day at midnight or the next day. So usually the day the assignments were due and the day that we had our online class were different.
Because I remember in university, when there was an assignment due, most of the time, it was actually due at the class time. So if we had class at 3 o'clock, we had to turn in the assignment at least by the end of that class. Perhaps it's different for online classes. But Miles says, don't you feel isolated sometimes? I would feel lonely if I had to learn on my own. Now, he uses the word isolated, and that's kind of a negative feeling. But there's a related word, and that is the word solitude. And they both have the idea of being alone, but how are they different?
Right. Okay, now we see the word isolated, and this is just a feeling of being unhappy because you don't get to see other people, you don't talk to other people, you feel very isolated and alone. However, the idea with solitude is that you choose to be alone without other people because you need some quiet time, you need some downtime, you need time away from other people.
That's right. So you might say, I felt isolated, and that's kind of a negative thing. Or you could tell somebody else, I need my own space, I need some solitude. That means you might go off by yourself somewhere just to be by yourself, okay? So that's more of a positive thing. So Miles says, don't you feel isolated sometimes? I would feel lonely if I had to learn on my own. Again, I think Miles' personality is similar to mine. He just likes being around other people.
And Ned says, I'm confident in learning by myself. Besides, an online class gives me more free time to participate in other activities, which is something I do agree with. If you are taking online classes, as long as you get the assignments done by the due date, then you do have more flexibility and you can do other things.
That's right. Other things like watching a movie, which is what Ned wanted to do with Miles in the first place, right? Miles says, I still prefer having classmates to brainstorm and discuss ideas with. Well, do you like brainstorming sessions? What's a brainstorming session? What does it mean to brainstorm?
That's a great question, Gabe, and I'm glad you brought it up. If you brainstorm or have a brainstorming session, this just means that you get together with other people and you suggest a lot of different ideas before considering them more carefully.
Okay, so you could brainstorm with your classmates about something. Sometimes I think the best ideas come when you don't intentionally have a brainstorming meeting, but when you're just hanging out with your friends or coworkers or whatever, and ideas just come into your head. That's sometimes the best way to get new ideas. It just happens. Well, Miles, he likes brainstorming sessions. He believes that his overall learning will improve.
Now, of course, Ned is very self-disciplined. He works better on his own, and he thinks he would get distracted working with others. Now, Gabe, which of the problems that were mentioned do you feel like you'd be most concerned about?
I think perhaps the whole misunderstanding with emails and things like that from the first day of this lesson. What about you, friends? Well, you know, it's been a long time since we've had a music feature here at Studio Classroom, but we put something together just for you today. We hope you enjoy it. It's about making important decisions. Here we go.
I have an important decision to make. It's not easy, no, it's not a piece of cake. Put yourself in my shoes, I need your opinion too. Together there's less of a chance we will make a mistake. Come on, guys. Should I buy it now or should I wait? Should I go out with friends to a movie at 8 o'clock? Gotta turn my brain on, weigh the pros and the cons. But I need to make a decision before it's too late. Who do you love? Who do you hold dear? How do you know what is right? Do you think through all those voices you hear? How can you live in the light? Do I play music for work or fun, or to be a star? Write a song with piano or play the guitar? That's right, life's like a song. Will you sing along? I believe that with you we can really go far. We have an important decision to make, oh yeah. It's not easy, no, it's not a piece of cake. But life's like a song, will you sing along? Together there's less of a chance we will make a mistake. With you here there's less of a chance I will make a mistake.
Hey everyone, just to review, the word isolated means that you go off by yourself and you don't talk to any friends, not to be confused with the word solitude, when you choose to spend some time by yourself because you need time away from people. It could be a good thing. And as a reminder, if you need some ideas for your next writing assignment, maybe you could brainstorm with your friends. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time right here on Studio Classroom.